Hello guys, in this video tutorial you will learn about layouts and at the end about androidmanifest.xml file. Layouts are important component of your Android application project, so you have to be some kind of careful about these files. And Android manifest.xml is 99% important within your Android application project, because it contains your permissions like internet permissions, camera permissions, etc, etc. So let's get started with the layout. So what basically layout is? So layout is basically a visual structure for user on which you can use different UI components like buttons, text views, checkboxes, list views, etc. So layout basically user create or developer create for an activity, because whenever you use that activity or whenever you use that layout which contains your UI components like buttons, so the user will interact with these UI components, some kind of text views, edit text like buttons, and so on. So you can create layouts in other two ways. The first is the manual way, using these layout files which reside within your layout directory. So the second thing is you can programmatically generate that layout, which is the dynamic process, means which means you can programmatically create your activity layout, and you can destroy it by program and so on. For further details you can also visit Android official website. So after that, there are different types of layout. First is relative layout, one of the basic layout to design a UI in Android. In this layout you can display elements or components with relative position, which means wherever you drop your UI component, it will show on that particular position, whether you drop on one component on another component, or whether you drop on and but just one component to a vacant space. So let's take an example. I'm just using a Photoshop to demonstrate about the use of relative layouts. Let's suppose this is your Android device. I'm just change it to white background. So let's take an example. This is your Android device. So whenever I will drop any UI component within that application, so it will open that. Just kind of I'm just dropping first some kind of button. So some kind of button I have dropped on your on my Android example Android device. So when I will drop any other button called something like this, I just make it to fill and turn on the stroke. So it will overlap the positions of one another. Just look at that one component overlap the other components, as you can see. But wherever you will drop your component, it will stay at that position. So this is the basic purpose of relative layouts. So mostly people some kind of to support different screen densities, mostly people use this relative layout. So let's start with the second type of layout, which is linear layout. In this layout, every component or element display in two directions, either in vertical or horizontal. Whenever you drop any UI component, it will display in sequence. What in what sequence, then you have to decide whether it will be a horizontal direction or a vertical direction. So let's take an example. I'm just delete that rectangles. So now we are dealing with the linear layout. So whenever I drop some kind of button on the you on your Android XML layout. So now we are talking about vertical orientation of linear layout. So first I have dropped some kind of button on the limb on the XML layouts. Then I have dropped some kind of another edit text, for the user input. So it will display some kind of something like this, some kind of vertical way, as you can see. So and so on. Okay, this is the vertical orientation of the linear, or you can say this is the vertical direction of the linear layout. So let's just talk about a horizontal view of the linear layout. And I'm just deleting that rectangle. So I'm just placing that Android device within the center. So whenever I will drop some kind of sorry about that, now just fill it back. So next one I will drop some kind of UI components like button or edit text and so on. It will display in a horizontal. So now we are talking about horizontal directions. As you can see, I'm just dropping these components. It will display in a horizontal view. Whether you will display on here, it will automatically go on to the some kind of in horizontal direction, because you are considering the horizontal orientation of your layout. So it will go in that direction. So okay, the next one is table layout. In this layout, every UI component or component display in a row or in a column by adding table row element in a table layout. So as you can see, this is some kind of consider it as a table layout. So as you can see, I'm just mark that or copy that these rectangles. So this some kind of rows and columns. As you can see, I have just copy these rectangles. So currently we are talking about table layouts, because table layouts you will remember some kind of table. So every table contains a row and column. So this is the same thing which might you have learned in your past within your some 10th standard or 9th standards and so on. So this is the basic use of the table layout. So let's talk about absolute layout. Now mostly people use that absolute layout. So what does that mean, or what is the basic purpose of that absolute layout? So in this layout, UI elements or components displays at absolute position, which means you can give X and Y positions to that particular component. It is not recommended for UI design, because whenever you want to add new component, you have to change every single component, because it means you doesn't or that tool doesn't guarantee that support every screen density with some with specific dimensions. You might design that layout according to Samsung S4, but the user wants to run it on Samsung Galaxy Grand Prime, but he's or she's unable, or your user is unable to see some components on your layout. So mostly people not use that kind of layout. So the next is frame layout. Frame layout, it's a kind of this layout basically can hold only one child view, except first UI component. Every component will display on top of below UI components. You can say overlapping of components. Just let's take an example. I'm just dropping another triangle on over that triangle, which is we have considered our Android device. As you can see, when I move to that layer, to the top of the layer, as you can see, this recently created rectangle is on the top of every layer. So that means a frame layout, that whenever you drop any UI components on another UI components, it will overlap or come on as you can come on the top of the stack kind of structure. So these kinds of layouts are not most oftenly, but at some situations these layouts are used. I cannot say that not mostly people use it, but whenever the user need that kind of layout, they use it. But we are not guaranteed that which kind of user will use which kind of layout. So let's just leave it on the developers on the developer side. So let's move on. So when we talk about Android manifest.xml file, so I'm just opening my Xamarin Studio. So I'm just currently open my Xamarin Studio. Now I will give you some introduction about Android manifest.xml file. So what's the parameters in that Android manifest.xml file, because this is the most important file in your Android manifest.xml Android application project. So as you can see, this Android manifest.xml file exists or resides within the properties directory. They have the two kind of views, like source view and application view, with the some application name, package name, application icon, version number, version name, and so on. So these are the permissions which are the most important part of your Android manifest.xml file. Whenever you was or you will deal with the some kind of server, some kind of internet permission, some kind of camera permissions, and so on. So as you can see, this Android manifest file, XML file, contains some kind of parameters. So what basically Android manifest file .xml file is? So Android manifest is an essential component of an Android application. You can say it's a backbone of an Android application. It stores all information about the application, like activities, services, etc., etc. For basic, it contains three most important parameters. First is your manifest parameter. The second is application tag, and the third is activities, which you will create within your Android application project, and you have to declare within that application tag, because if you skip that declaration of that activity within your application tag, then your application might crash. So so keep in mind this point, because you have to declare those activities within that application tag using activity tag. So and also within the root element manifest, it contains SDK version. As you can see, uses SDK minimum SDK versions 10. So it's a minimum SDK targeted version, or targeted API level, or some kind of operating system is 10. So SDK variant is which application target min and max, as you can see. So you can also add permission into that, into that, like camera permissions, internet permissions, read phone state permission, and so on. A lot of applications are there within that. You can go through those permissions. You can get more details about Android manifest.xml file from the Android official website. So this is the backbone of your android manifest sorry android application project, because it compile your permissions, it compiles your activities, it compiles your services, and so on. So I hope you understand the idea of layouts, what's the basic purpose of the layouts, or what kind of layouts exist within the Android application development, and most importantly, I hope you get the idea. So what's the purpose of androidmanifest.xml file? Thank you for watching this video. Good luck for that.